There's a piece of advice that comes to mind when I think of Afraid of Monsters, and it's from around my 18th birthday when my parents took me to one side, sat me down, and said, "Icarus, never trust a Half-Life mod that starts you off in a hospital bathroom." Why? Because they've got a tendency to go down the toilet real fast. Welcome to the toilet dimension. Let's be honest, it's a lot cleaner than you thought it would be, and is remarkably empty, save for the scroll on the walls that serves to offer up a whole cavalcade of cryptic imagery to effectively set the tone of the beginning here in Afraid of Monsters. And wouldn't you know it, the toilet dimension even features an outhouse within its halls. It's toiletception at this point. So what else is there to do but flush yourself second time, emerge out the opposite end, and follow the red. But let's face it, if you're seeing red down the toilet, you should probably consult a medical professional, let alone all the other colors down here. Things get steadily spookier the deeper you get, hallways appearing out of nowhere, apparitions yelling at you for no good reason, and the occasional death pit opening up underneath, which served to inconvenience more than it did terrify. But eventually, you'll reach the end of the path, before being spat unceremoniously back out into a much shabbier version of the room you left behind. But hey, free pills. After some aimless wandering around atmospherically abandoned hospital wards, I eventually found my way to, guess what, yet another toilet, this one containing the first weapon of the game, the poop knife. Oh man, you'll be getting a lot of use out of the poop knife. It doesn't just do toilet blockages, it does door planks, it does boxes, smashes windows, good taste in music, and at the end of the day, it's everything a good poop knife needs to be. It just gets you on your way, gets you started until you come across something a little bit more useful, like a kitchen gun.
Look how it cleans this greasy hob! Goodbye, dirt!
Shortly after that, you enter one of the most visually offensive rooms in the entire mod, find out that the piano doesn't work, then make your way into the maintenance section where you flip off the power so you can gain access past this unholy tangle of wires, but not before spooky time! Is he gonna move? He's just gonna stand there, isn't he? Well, this is kind of awkward. In any case, say hello to the most prolific type of enemy you'll be encountering during the course of Afraid of Monsters. That's right, Canadians. You can tell because of the flappy heads, jittery movements, and the occasional example of just shockingly poor posture. Squeezing your way past those previously electrified wires, you'll find yourself in a meeting room that helpfully explains the general conceit behind most of the level progression from here on in. It's basically a switch hunt. Find the switch, flick it, the corresponding colored door will be the next place you need to go. Apart from that one, that wasn't the door, that was the shutter. And it didn't really have much of a color to it. Good start! Moving through the shutter, you reach a ladder that seems to exist purely to give you a cheap death, before realizing that you're supposed to stop halfway down and leap off to reach the next available floor. This place is apparently where the hospital keeps all of its crazy people, judging by the high quantity of padded cells. They also seem to have free access to handgun ammunition, which is mildly concerning. Inevitably, you'll come across a cell with something in it. Now, I'm pretty sure this enemy shouldn't have been able to attack me before the door was fully open, but as it turns out, my third attempt was the charm, with the door somehow managing to deal damage, keeping it back, and allowing me to plug it with a few in the face. My reward for this valiant victory? Pills. So, eventually you'll stumble across the red button, and you know what, I'm skipping through this. Holy moly, is this part of the mod tedious. So, not only is the whole point of the button having a color-coded door made utterly redundant by the fact all of the lights are fucking turned out, but it makes it really difficult to kind of rationalize what part of the hospital you're actually looking for or are even in. At this point, things are just no longer spooky, they're just really, really inconvenient. So I finally stumble on the location of the door I managed to open what feels like 5 hours ago and find a corridor full of goddamn zombies with only a poop knife to defend myself with. I mean, sure, at this point I did have a kitchen gun, but that don't work so well when you've not got any goddamn bullets. So I cheese the zombies in the hallway and find out my poop knife is effective at breaking through elevator service hatches. Who knew? And then discover that the hallway directly below is also full of zombies, but this time the doorway's blocked. Also my health is low. Also fuck this mod. Anyways, after that it goes shit jumpscare, button, doorway, some disgusting piece of trash I call a jizz lobber, property damage, vent spelunking, shotgun acquisition, and let's not forget, obsessive compulsive box demolition.
What the fuck is that? What the fuck is that, a fucking cat?
Look what they did to my boy. Look what they did to the hound eye. Look what they turned it into. Most derpy looking creature I have had the pleasure of meeting so far in Afraid of Monsters. Not only that, but it's much more irritating to deal with than a typical hound eye because they remove the charge up before it unleashes the sonic attack, which, yeah, does not make these fun to deal with in any way. Oh, hi. Didn't see you guys there. You're probably gonna jump out at me as soon as I come around the corner, aren't you? Well, guess what? Shotgun. Mercifully, the car park gives way to the city streets, and you can finally leave the hospital behind. But what's this? Oh good, more boxes. This is a completely accurate tally of every box I've had to destroy so far, by the way. And I say have to destroy, because during this run-through, I had no idea which box had any good items in it, so naturally you're gonna have to smash them all to figure out which it is. Turns out it's a ratio of maybe, at best, 1 in 5. So this section of Afraid of Monsters switches up the dimly lit confusing halls of the hospital for dimly lit confusing halls in an apartment complex. This will have you biffing up against doors, trying desperately to figure out which ones aren't jammed or locked, and then exploring whatever inside to find that no, the button isn't in this room, best continue exploring. This is the template. This is, as I said before, what it boils down to. A switch hunt. Not that there's anything inherently bad about having the structure of your mod be a glorified switch hunt, but you've got to hang a lot of compelling and interesting stuff off that skeleton of a framework in order to keep things interesting. Or, at the very least, spooky. And in one respect, it does achieve that with the occasional enemy, such as this absolute shitter of a face. And what makes this much more effective than any of the other enemies that have been recently encountered here is that Afraid of Monsters up until this point has been training you to ignore this kind of apparition. It's been flashing up these fraction of a second spooks, not with any jump scare sounds, just a brief vision in the corner of your eye, maybe in the flash of a light, enough to get you to feel like it's no biggie, something you can move past and safely ignore. And then this fucker turns up. Spitting eyeballs. Very unhygienic. So anyway, you end up in a boiler room with enough awkward jumping between pipes to make you feel like goddamn Darkside Phil, do a bit of dumpster diving, steal someone's keys, get stuck in an elevator, abuse no clip, find that damn button, and boom, before you know it, you're saying hi to the locals in a new part of town. I have to admit, I was starting to lose my patience with this mod after a while because it just didn't feel like it was actually leading me anywhere. It was just an endless procession of and then, and then, and then.
And then.
No 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 and then.
And then.
Really starting to piss me off, lady.
Honestly, at points like these, in mods like this, all I'm looking for is just a little bit of additional intrigue. Something to help nudge me along and remind me why I'm even playing it to begin with. And at this point, this mod is still coasting along on the fact that you fell into the toilet dimension, and I guess there's monsters now. Oh, excuse me. So we're next on this magical mystery tour of this here fabled toilet dimension. Ah, shit. Alright, screw it, let's just get through this. Find a hammer, make some friends, hump a door, assist the handicapped, blow something up, backtrack, swim in poop, physics puzzle, find button, dodge jizz. Is this section still going? Jesus Christ. Boobs, pills, headshots, hallucinations, always. Hallelujah! We're finally somewhere new. Never mind, it sucks! So yeah, this section right here is premium grade A bullshit. Not only do the hallways get completely flooded by these cracked out zombies, but you also have to go and figure out what exactly the button does. Now, in previous examples, the button will usually show you what door it's open. But because of the way the cutscenes work here, if there's enemies present when it goes to cutscene, chances are the enemies will kill you. That happened to me in a previous one when it was giving me a nice aerial shot of a dumpster for some reason. Adding to the fun, you're not just looking for one button, you're looking for three. You got a few more in this section that will eventually allow you to get through a door, and guess what? Find another fucking button.
Of course!
After that, it's just easy peasy, lemon friggin' squeezy, having to fight your way through a bottleneck of zombies that have all congregated by this hallway door, more than you have effective ammunition to take down, and more than you can effectively deal with a melee weapon. Holy shit, I hate this section! Anyway, you finally make it above ground, and oh boy, what a surprise, more city to explore, more zombies to shoot in the face, and yep, more buttons to press. I do have to give credit to this particular section of the mod, however, for containing a small puzzle that actually engaged me. That actually made me feel like I was rubbing more than two brain cells together, because up until this point, the vast majority of this mod has consisted of me just instinctually reacting to enemies and occasionally humping doors to see if they'll open. And it's not like this puzzle is particularly big or clever either, it just requires you to get the elevator in the right position and make sure you get out before it starts descending, otherwise you'll block yourself off. But that just shows you how starved for a little bit of mental stimulation I was during the course of this mod. Resuming normal programming, I find myself a garage stuffed to the gills with things to shoot in the face, and wouldn't you know it, a mild bit of platforming to move this container into position so I can reach the other side. What's on the other side? A button. What does the button do? It opens the shutter and triggers a cutscene. A cutscene showing you getting into a car and finally driving out of this god-forsaken town. You know, relief is a very palpable feeling. It's as if a great weight has been lifted off your chest, and it's just the most wonderful thing. Knowing that the hard part is over, that the job is... Well, it's not done. It's not done. It keeps going. It keeps going. Oh, God. I don't know. I don't know how to continue with this. I honestly don't know what more there is to say. You end up in a hallucination maze on the drive out of town with purposely misleading signs that lead to a cell, and every time you fall down in the cell, these chuckle fucks come out the walls and try to fuck you over, and then you have to repeat the process all over again. And if, by some miracle, you haven't managed to claw your own eyes out from sheer frustration at this point, you end up in a car crash. So what's there left to do other than derp around in a forest, I guess? At least there aren't any sodding cardboard boxes out here. I feel personally attacked by this mod. I feel personally attacked. Have I wronged the author in some way? Because I gotta break them all. I gotta break the boxes. It's the only way the contract will be fulfilled. The contract inked in blood. The boxes must break. The pieces must shatter. What was I saying? Oh yeah, derping around the forest. There's a lot of that. If anything, this is easily the least memorable section of the entire mod. Just an endless trudge through a dark, dingy forest, flashlight batteries constantly running out, enemies scuttling out from the side and bopping you on the head every now and again. Maybe you'll crawl through a dingy tunnel. Maybe you'll attack a freak in a cabin. Maybe you'll just be chased endlessly around a field by a horde of the fuckers. Who knows? It's all the same to me at this point. Eventually you'll leave the dank darkness of the forest and emerge blinking into the bright visual whiplash of wherever the unholy heck this is. It's very orange. Someone should probably fire their interior designer. And for anyone that has a keen eye, they'll probably spot straight away that this is a Resident Evil homage. Anyway, you'll smash a few zombies over the head, acquire a few keys, deal with spooky faces, rifle through someone's wardrobe, get killed by an invisible monster, and before you know it, you're back in the forest again. If I ever need a great example of needless padding in a mod, I could just sit people down and show them Afraid of Monsters, because there are so many sections during the course of this that you could remove entirely and not miss. In fact, I'm pretty sure the removal of some of these sections would objectively improve the experience. I mean, the sum total of this section right here is taking a boat across the lake, finding a house, trudging around the woods out back, getting needlessly ambushed by a bunch of those damn spooky faces, finding a button in the shitter that somehow unlocks the front door of the house, exploring the house itself, button, basement, button, cabin in the ass crack of nowhere, backtracking to the cabin in the ass crack of nowhere, all for hopping through a window and pressing yet another button that opens a chimney door back in the mansion you just came from. Finally, and somewhat mercifully, the mod deigns it the appropriate time to lodge you firmly in the lower reaches of the toilet dimension and actually push you in the general direction of an ending. And at this point, you got a few choices. You can go left or right here. And really, if it's your first time playing, going left isn't going to really bear any fruit. It will, however, give you a little bit of visual themic linkage back to the very opening of the game. The only time this seems in any way apparent, by the way. And it's something that you will have no hope in hell of being able to take advantage of at this point. But don't worry, I'll get back to that. Oh, believe you me, I'll get back to that. Instead, this route has you take the right-hand path, leading to a room full of familiar yet oddly translucent monsters, which doesn't make them any friggin' easier to kill. Has you do a little bit of extra-dimensional platform hopping, a little bit of spooky cage riding, fight through some assorted bullshit, and then you find yourself in a negative color version of the bathroom you started in, but oddly the negative color just makes this look really clean instead of spooky. Anyway, a short jaunt onwards lands you in this arena where you expect to fight a boss, but instead you just get a bunch of zombies breaking through the ground, and then a few more spooky faces turn up and shoot eyeballs at you, and it's all really annoying and just really frigging disappointing. But if you manage to survive that, you are able to escape the arena, and all that's left for you to do is walk into the light. So yeah, it turns out you're a mentally ill crazy person that murdered a bunch of people. Okay, thanks, bye.
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
Yeah, nah, you're not getting me to play through this mod another 3 times just for the sake of completionism. I do not care enough, not one bit, to go for those other endings, which requires you to get to a certain point and be aware of the fact that you can indeed take alternate routes. And because I didn't know that to begin with, I don't have any save to fall back on, so I'd have to play it from the very beginning all over again. To that, I say, fuck right off. And then there's the prospect of the true ending. This is something that I believe is additional to the 4 endings that are already here in Afraid of Monsters. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong on that. But the whole point is you're supposed to be collecting this 10-number code, which can be found on various scraps of paper throughout the various routes of Afraid of Monsters. And then you have to put them in the right order, designated by a letter that usually accompanies the number, and bring it to a section right near the end of the game. You might remember this hallway from earlier. It ends in a room full of numbers, and this is where you have to make sure you put the code in properly, which is a little bit finicky, if I'm going to be honest, because it doesn't really give you any indication of what number you've actually hit, which can lead to a little bit of confusion if, you misclick. Anyway, I'm not going to spoil a true ending, or any of the other endings that I've not actually done myself for that matter, so if you feel like giving this a shot and wasting all that time, well, it's your funeral, I guess. But yeah, this clearly isn't the mod for me. I mean, it had a whole raft of minor irritations during the course of it. I thought that the doling out of ammunition was a little inconsistent. I wasn't that much a fan of the flashlight, which needs to constantly be stocked up with batteries. If you run out, it pretty much stops the gameplay dead for a short while until the batteries recharge to their minimum level. And in general, I just found the whole thing really poorly paced. it just never felt like it was actually leading anywhere. It really needed a more solid drive to the actual gameplay, but in the absence of that, I was, quite frankly, bored out of my friggin' skull. Anyway, I'm done here. I've said all I care to say, and if you fancy subjecting yourself to the same mind-numbing horror that I went through, you'll find the link, as usual, in the description below. While I'm at it, I'd like to give a great big thank you to my wonderful patrons over on Patreon. Thank you so much for supporting the channel and for helping to fund the therapy I'll be attending after playing this mod. If you're interested in supporting the channel yourself, maybe you'd like to see your name in the credits, maybe you'd like to gain early access to my videos before anyone else, if that's the case, you'll find the link to my Patreon page also in the description below. Hopefully you've enjoyed my suffering. Feel free to let me know what you thought in the comments below, and feel free not to suggest any mods of this type ever again. Thank you very much. This has been Mr. Icarus. Thank you very much for watching. Icarus out.